Hi everyone and welcome to part 2 of my little series on short, manageable daily tarot spreads. In this video I'm going to be talking about the elemental spread based on the 5 elements. I know technically there are 4 basic elements. Of course the 5th one is considered to be spirit or ether, whatever you want to call it. Either way, it's pretty indescribable. Its essence is motion, and that's about all you can really say about it. Motion and silence, I suppose. Anywho, so for this, again, I'm going to be using my Tarot de Marseille that I used in the previous video. Very old traditional deck. And I'm going to show you how I use this. Now, this can be used, I think this is a good way of looking at the multiple ways you can approach a situation, the multiple aspects of a situation, either on your part or others. But I think it's a good way of breaking down a situation into its multiple components. Okay. So it's sort of like a Celtic cross, but without the same positions. Okay. And then in the next video, I'm going to talk about a spread that's very similar to that, that I've found very interesting and very helpful. Okay, so again, I'm just going to give a quick shuffle. And I'm going to, I guess I would ask, well, I asked, the way I used this the other day was I asked, one of the things I've been thinking about a lot as part of my New Year's resolutions is what exactly should my, I suppose, ritual praxis be as a contemplative, and you know, because I am basically esoteric Christian, but I don't really have a specific set of practices that I do day to day that allow me to feel that spirituality every day, and allow me to do get in certain habits that I think are good and cultivate certain good behaviors. So I was wondering exactly how I should set that up. Given the fact that I'm pretty independent and don't want someone else to tell me how to do that. So anywho, so I suppose I'll ask the same question again, just as an example to show you what I mean with the elemental spread. Excuse me. Gosh. Alright, we'll just do 2 more. Okay. And again, my question is, what should I be focusing on day to day in the coming year as far as ritual praxis is concerned, so that I may further achieve knowledge and conversation of the HGA. Okay. Cut. Okay. So now I'm going to lay them out in a cross format. Now the way I lay this out is according to the same structure of the elements according to the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, or the LBRP. This is very easy to find online if you're remotely interested in it. I've done it in the past. I I didn't find it a challenging ritual. By the way, this is just a side note. Um, but it didn't really help me in the way that I thought it would, or affect me in the way that I thought it would. But of course, these things take time, and I really didn't give it a fair enough time. So this is what leads me to this question. So anywho, so I just got, so now I lay one in the center, and this represents spirit. And I have the Fool in the center for spirit. I think that's a very auspicious thing to have in the place of spirit. Now I go in the order that you would when, blessing yourself or crossing yourself. So up, down, left, right. I know it's mirrored for you and it's backwards, but that's how I go. So then the one on top corresponds to the direction of north, and so therefore corresponds to the element of earth. Then below it corresponds to the element of fire, the south. North, south. I usually do west, east. I know you would usually do north, south, east, west. But just because when, I think of when you cross yourself, you go up, down, left, right. Or that's at least how I do the Celtic cross as well. So I'm just sort of imitating that. But again, if that doesn't work for you, if you would rather do north, south, east, west, or even a totally different order, if you want to go in a circle, that's fine too. That's up to you. But this is how I do it. So now west is associated with the element of water, and for that I have the 8 of swords. And then in the east, for the element of air, I have the Ace of Cups. Okay. And then underneath it all, I have the Knave of Pentacles, or the Page of Pentacles, which makes a lot of sense, I think, for this reading. So I know that someone's listening to me in this reading when I'm asking this question. Good. Okay. So basically what I would say is that spirit, I'm going to turn these around so that you can see them. Okay. I love this light that I bought. Sorry. It's clipped into my computer. It's like the best thing I ever bought. Okay. So now that you can see them, I always say that spirit is the element, as esotericists say, spirit is the element that binds. It's what keeps everything together and in motion and as a unified whole. It's what takes our multiplicity as beings, all the cells that we are made up of and all the different selves that we are made up of as well, and makes them into a coherent whole and gives them life. So spirit is what is the overarching idea of your entire cross, okay? So as the Fool, I think that very much applies to me in this situation, as the Fool being the most spiritual card, but also not really knowing what he's doing, sort of going in his own way, without really having any clue as to what the next step is going to be, and not really caring necessarily either, but just that sense of innocence and confusion and not really knowing anything at all. And I definitely feel that way in this situation. I don't really know what I should be doing, but I am eager to take that step. Okay, so now if I were to just keep going in order, Earth is up here, remember, and Earth, of course, is the element associated with materiality, with material things, the physical end of this, the work end of this, how the body is connected to this reading. And in this case, I have the King of Cups. So I would say that in this case, well, I'm not sure what I would say, actually. That's kind of a curious thing to have there. Perhaps it has to do with looking to mediate the needs of the body with the needs of the emotions, trying to form a bridge between the two, trying to form understanding between the two, perhaps working towards um, greater compassion for those in my immediate physical sphere, or even compassion for other living things. I have several animals, as some of you know. Uh, I'm a big cat fan. Pretty bad. My life is so lame sometimes, guys. Uh, but it could be something like that. I don't know. Uh, Again, this is just an example. Below, I have temperance for the element of fire. And this is funny because when I did this reading the other day, that I also had temperance in the same place. So that's funny to me. Um, so fire is the element of the creative will. It's the element associated with direct emanation from God. It's the pure creative fire. It's equally creative and equally destructive. Um, but it's very powerful. And there's also something quasi-sexual about it. So, so for temperance to be there, I would say that since I asked about, how better to know my Holy Guardian Angel, HGA, I just use it for short, that I need to work towards merging my own will with its will, with and I know some people debate whether or not the HGA is an extension of yourself or a totally separate entity, and I'm not really sure if I know the answer to that yet either. But whatever this means, I would say that this represents blending my nature with its own, working towards finding a balance between its desires and my desires. Uh, Now, moving this direction, this is the element of water. So, of course, water, as you know, with the cup suit, is the suit of the emotions and the heart and the intuition. And it tells me with the Eight of Swords that emotionally there are some blockages that I need to deal with, that I need to see that a lot of my emotional living in my head sort of thing can be blocking and can be restricting and can be imprisoning, frankly. Um, that I'm not necessarily being productive in that sense. I'm a Scorpio. I always live thinking about my emotions. Now, on the other hand, in the other arm, we have the Ace of Cups, and that is in the East, or the air section of the reading. And, of course, like the sword suit, air is associated with the intellect, with the brain, and thinking, rationality, logic, that sort of thing. So it's funny that I should have the Ace of Cups, because that is sort of non-logical, and goes almost against what this is saying here. Um, it's almost as if the freshness of the Ace of Cups, as opposed to the farther down the tree aspect of this, the tree as in the tree of life, because of course 8 is far removed from the number 1, so it's a much denser emanation, and it's older in a way, is the sense I'm getting. So the Eight of Swords in a way is telling me that my old emotions are blocking me, whereas I need to focus on new sources of happiness or new connections. And I would say that air is also associated with the letter Vav, which is the letter of the HGA, or the Sephiroth Tiferet, which is also HGA associated. So, and this kind of goes back to my point before about Dion Fortune. I think that was in this video, talking about how, or the previous video, I don't remember, I'm sorry, how knowing your Kabbalah is very important to distinguish yourself between regular fortune telling and divination. You know, I'm able to make some sense out of this reading um, because I have that background, and I think that that helps me tremendously understand some of the messages I get from my HGA. I think my HGA talks to me a lot through tarot reading, and I don't think I would be able to understand a lot of what it was getting at if I if I didn't have that system of symbols and patterns and associations with which to talk to it, you know, because it doesn't talk with words. I am not at the level to be able to do that yet. Um, you know, the old mystics talk about out-of-body experience being important for that, you know, astral projection and all that crap. I am fully incapable of, of doing that. Trust me, I've tried. So it's not something I'm used to. But anywho, my point is that it's important to have a system. So anywho, if I were really confused about these cards, however, I could again draw for them, as I did with the previous spread. Do not be afraid of drawing from the top for any old card. And really, the bizarre thing, I think, is that even if I didn't want to lay a second detail for every card, let's say I just wanted to know about temperance, I could draw from the top just randomly without shuffling, and it would give me the information I want about temperance. And then I could from there ask about any other card in any order. It's a bizarre thing, and I'm not sure how it works that way, but it does, or at least in my experience, it's worked that way. Maybe there are some of you where that hasn't worked that way, but in my experience, it works that way. It's really freaky, but trust me. So, but I'm just going to lay secondary details for all of them, and I'm just going to go in the same order. So I'm going to lay for the Fool, Earth, Fire, Water, and Air. And I got some very interesting things here. For the Fool, the second detail was the Hierophant. That is exactly my question. The Fool and the Hierophant put together basically sum up my question. So that's incredibly significant to me. I'm going to just go in Kabbalistic order. For Fire, I have the Tower, and that's very interesting to me as well. The Tower, again, symbolic of, I think, destroying the self and experiencing the other fully, the destruction of one's personal reality to experience the greater reality. So that's very important too. And both of these cards are fire. When I did this reading the other day too, all the cards in the fire pile were all fire, which is very interesting. So again, we have that, excuse me, the repetition of that theme. So there is some consistency to this reading that I think is also interesting. So from Fire we have Water. Water, I drew the Queen of Pentacles, and that's interesting. I think I know what that represents. It's kind of personal, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I understand what it's getting at with that. On this end, it is interesting to have Death in the Air pile along with the Ace of Cups. I think it's a very similar message to this. I would say anyway. I think the two are very close together in meaning. I'm just going to leave it at that for now and think about it more later. And then lastly, the Earth pile as the Six of Discs. I think it's saying, you know, what I put into it physically is what I'm going to get out of it. And that it's going to be all fair trade. So anyway, I think that's all I can really say about it. Another 20-minute video. I hope you're not bored yet. But I do hope that you are finding these helpful. In the next video, I'm going to talk about something very similar to this, but more on a personal level. This is more, the next one is going to be a little bit more geared towards contemplation. Because I want you to remember that this spread that I just did, even though I used it for a particularly contemplative question, does not have to be used just for that. You can really use it for a number of different things. If you are planning a trip, even, that idea just popped into my head, and you wanted to know what the overall idea of the trip should be, that would be spirit. If you wanted to know how you should try to have fun during the trip, that would be water. If you wanted to know what your goals should be, what type of people you should maybe bring along or not bring along, or what sort of issues might come up with the trip, that would be swords, that would be air, and so on and so forth. The monetary end, pentacles, the rather earth, and I suppose the willpower that you want to put into that doesn't really make sense, but maybe the creative end of the trip. How are you going to make the trip happen in the first place? That might be fire. So I don't know. You can get really creative with it. You really don't have to follow any guidelines with it, even though it is a positional spread, because they're such ambiguous qualities, and these qualities are inherent in everything in various quantities and various aspects, or at least that's what the occultists would say. Anywho, again, I hope you found this useful, interesting. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Okay, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.